Welcome back to the Cowbar Bros podcast. Jason and I are fresh off the segment about Jussie Smollett. Coming up in the third and final segment of the show, we're going to be talking about the unfortunate tragedy about the adverse weather for the tornadoes that covered 6 states. Jason, I'll start off with you. That is, I was blown away by the amount of devastation, not only my in my state. I say my state like it's not yours. Um, I was blown away by the devastation in Illinois, but also 5 other states. Um, I I'm still recovering from the fact that nearly 70 people died in Kentucky, um, especially where many of them were trapped inside that candle factory. And then there were quite a few fatalities from a roof collapse at an Amazon warehouse in Illinois as well. Jason, correct me if I'm wrong. You have some um, personal attachment to these areas.
Yes. So you mentioned the Amazon um, building collapse in southern Illinois, in Edwardsville, Illinois specifically, which is in Madison County, Illinois, which my mom and brother both live. Um, Now, my brother doesn't work for Amazon, but he works in a similar type employer. And, but definitely that's why that one specifically has a connection to me. I didn't, you know, the people that died in the Amazon one, I didn't know any of those people. But the fact that it hit close to home, I mean, Edwardsville is only like a 15-minute drive from where mom lives, so it's that close. The tornadoes. One of my Facebook friends posted a picture of a two funnels, not that far from each other, and also not very far from again, that area. So that's why that one hits so close to home. Um, Now, probably the area that got hit the worst, um, as far as devastation. Again, not wanting to play the devastation Olympics, but Mayfield, Kentucky. If anybody has been looking at that town, what it was before and what it is now, I'm looking at a huge picture from the NPR website about this, from an article that was posted on Saturday. It's like every single building in the town is, if it's not fully destroyed into the ground, it's not. It's like total. Like when you ever say a car is total, these houses are total. And if anybody is going to rebuild, they're going to tear down what's there and build back up. It's it, it eerily reminds me of Joplin, Missouri. Whenever they had their town destroyed by a tornado, this may be worse. I don't know, but this got a connection to me because someone that I know and very close with actually lived in Mayfield, Kentucky, in that area for about 20 years. They don't now, but they did, and most of the people that they know are there. And excuse me. And so just kind of seeing that there just kind of again hits close to home. And I saw a video too of a drone flying over the town, and again just looking around, I'm like, is there anything still standing? And there's not. And I was told a couple of stories about some of the stuff that happened. The one that stands out to me, again about somebody living in Mayfield, is that obviously I wasn't there, so I don't know the facts of this, but it was told to me, so I'm gonna trust that it's true. That someone again who lives in Mayfield was in their home, and obviously wasn't able to leave or chose not to leave, but they went and got in the bathtub in their house. And I remember when we were kids, they used to tell us that whenever if you're at home in a tornado, one thing you can do in your house is get in the bathtub. And I never understood how getting in the bathtub would help protect you in a tornado. I never understood it. Still really don't. But anyway, but this person, that's what they did. They went and got in the bathtub, and they remember being in the tub and seeing the house starting to get destroyed. And the next thing I remember after that is being in some field somewhere miles away from where the house is, and they're still in the tub. Of course, all maybe a little battered and bruised a little bit, but still. Um, and then the other thing I want to let you jump in, like you mentioned, the Kendall factory, and there was a little bit of this with the Amazon factory too, is that the employees weren't allowed to leave, and reports are saying that which obviously is going to be figured out because I believe there's a criminal case involved with the candle factory. And I know OSHA apparently is investigating, according to a couple of articles I found on NPR and CNN. OSHA is actually investigating the Amazon one in Illinois in regards to what safety practices were, followed there or not followed. But if there were people, if the employers were asking to leave to go home to get safety at their homes and told no, if you leave early, you're gonna get fired. You know, like what is wrong with you? I mean, what if a manager actually said that to somebody, whether they're following company policy or not? It's like, who are you? How dare you? You're gonna make me keep working when a tornado's coming through? Now, obviously, they didn't know what the severity of the tornado was, but we later discovered yesterday that it was an F3 tornado, and the scale is F5 is the worst. So it wasn't the worst, but it's right there in the middle, F3. And clearly, with all the devastation and the loss of life, unfortunately, it was definitely a very serious and definitely condolences to go out to anybody that died, whether it be Illinois, Indiana, Tennessee, Arkansas, Missouri, or wherever the other states are involved. Kentucky. My condolences go out to you, Terrence. Your thoughts?
Yeah, one thing I was gonna think about as we were discussing that, number one, holy shit, that there could be a potential lawsuit. You're talking about the criminal side of it. I don't know about the criminal side of it. Civically, that there might be an entanglement there.
Oh, I know.
Um,
No, might be. That's going to happen. That's going to happen. I'm sorry if I'm a relative of that person, and I find out you threaten their job if they left. Yeah. You're gonna catch. You're not gonna catch these hands, but you're gonna catch this lawsuit though.
yeah. Another thing to keep in mind, though, Jason, you decide to go. You decide to go. Let's say you leave, and you say, "Fuck it. I don't care what this person says." You go outside. There are some people that would have the counter argument. I'm like, I'm putting your life in danger if I let you walk out there. Like, I don't even know the timing, Jason. And that's why I'm not being overly supportive or critical of that particular um, institution or manager who said that. But when you've got notifications of adverse weather like that, if you decide to leave right then and there, how much time would you have had? I don't know. That's my stance. Is that I, I feel like there's going to be a lot of hemming and hawing about, oh my God, how could this manager say that? I I don't even know the timing of when they said it. That's all I'm saying.
Wow. Just kind of seeing the numbers about the people that have died. It's been people people who are 5 months as young as 5 months old up to people in their 90s. 6 different states: Arkansas, Illinois, Missouri, Tennessee, Kentucky, and the other one I believe we got to look up make sure Indiana. Um, I believe yeah, 30 tornadoes. 30.
I didn't realize there was that many. I knew there were that many states. I didn't realize there were that many tornadoes. I didn't have a sense of how big the scale was in terms of that many tornadoes. I knew that the damage had spanned 6 states. I didn't know that there were that many tornadoes, literally.
Even to me, that's what's crazy. After I found out all this stuff was happening, I mean, I'm sure. I think you said yesterday where you are in Illinois. Saturday, we here in Indianapolis, it was a windy day. Like so, the wind was so you know vast, which obviously was a side effect from the tornadoes that happened in the states near us. But yeah, that's what's crazy to me too, man. Is that I never heard of 6 states all right there together getting tornadoes around the same time. I've never heard of that. I can't remember the name of the movie, but it has Dennis Quaid in it. Um, I only want to reference it now, but it reminds me of that movie where they had a bunch of storms going on, and it was like the end of days or whatever. That might have been the name of the movie. That's why I thought of when I heard of that, because that just seems so. It's phenomenal in a way, but tragic, obviously, because all the people that died and people that lost their homes. Um, and some people aren't going to be able to, rebuild. Again, the person close to me that lived there in Mayfield was saying that because I was asking, hey, well, I was thinking of, oh, hey, if people get their insurance money, are they going to look to rebuild and stay in Mayfield? They look to leave somewhere else. What do you think? Blah blah. Of course, she was telling me that people who lived in Mayfield, people that are like lifers, they lived there for 20, 30 years or more. So I was expecting her to say that they're probably going to try to rebuild. But then they throw out there that, well, some people are a lot of people are down there renters, and they don't necessarily have insurance at all, or their insurance they would have wouldn't apply to the building and property. It would just be their stuff if they had it. So then I'm like, now you have all these people, well, say whatever percentage you want to say of them don't have any means to rebuild because they don't have any insurance or whatever. It's like, oh my lord, what are they going to do? You know, um, and I've already seen it now. That of course there are lots of commercials out there about donating to Kentucky. Hey, send money to help these people out, and again, it's a town of about I believe about 10,000 or so, and that's a lot of people. That's a lot of people, bro. Um, and again, that's just that one town. How many other towns were affected by this stuff? Um, and the funny thing about it, and it's not, and I say funny, I don't mean like ha ha funny. It's just funny as in interesting that all this was just on the. I don't want to say on a whim, but out of nowhere. You know, you might have been expecting bad weather to happen that particular Friday night, but you're not going to expect a tornado to come tear up your town in your house in your home, and in just a blink of an eye like that, your life has changed. And for some people, obviously, like I said, it's just been changed forever. And to me, that's just crazy. But that's, I mean, that's life, I guess. How things can change, like snap of a finger, a Thanos snap or whatever. But yeah, yeah, it's yeah, a little speechless right now. But
Yeah,
I'm sure
I
you love
think
that.
Jason,
So
no, Jason, I think a couple things. Number one, the amount of devastation. Number two, the one of the things that as I've read up on this a little bit, is that I was they CBS Two News Chicago had someone on the ground, um, in one of these hard hit areas, and they were saying the local authorities are saying that we're getting a lot of phone calls from people that don't live there, but it's someone from, let's say, a couple states away saying, "Hey, I can't get a hold of so and so. Can you check on them?" And that's why this particular reporter was saying it's not a recovery effort. It was a search and rescue, because they had no idea these folks could have been alive. These folks could have been dead. Just trying to locate folks was a logistical nightmare. So it's things are pretty dire. There's death, there's despair, but there's also hope. And I think it's important because, um, one, you have to acknowledge the loss of life, the loss of you know people's homes, memories, treasures. Um, but yeah, it's really scary because you don't have you don't listen. A lot of folks talk about what I thought was really really fucked up about this tragedy is that as soon as the tragedy happened, I saw someone on Twitter trying to make some sort of weird critique because they were trying to say, "Oh, well, it sucks to be you. I guess that's what you get for having questionable leadership in those particular states." I'm like, natural disasters are just that. Like, now is not the time to be stunting on somebody's senator.
Yeah.
Okay,
Let's not even bring that up, man, because that's total BS. It has nothing to do with a natural disaster. Nothing. So whoever said that is a class A type one moron, and that person doesn't need to be acknowledged in any way on this show.
they need to be acknowledged because we need to talk about the fact that even in even in the face of abject uh, tragedy, we're still dealing with unhinged assholes.
Well, that's the way of the world, man. That's going to be. But I, I,
We don't have to be like them. That Jason, that's the point. You call it out because it's not okay. Saying it's just the way of the world, we just got to deal with it. No, we don't. No, we don't. We actually don't have to deal with that. But that also doesn't mean we don't have to ignore it either.
see, that's what I was going to say. We can deal with it by ignoring it. Now, that's
I can. I can.
that's
If you can, great. I won't.
well, that's why it's a 2-man show. I can ignore it. You don't have to. So there you go. Tag team. But hey man, I want to kind of run through this real quick. It's an article I found on CNN, which I think you probably referenced it as well. But it kind of gives a little bit of insight into what some people experienced during all these tornadoes. And they reference a lot of people, but the one specifically is one of the workers who was in the candle factory. Um, the person in particular, her name is Kayana Parsons Perez. Um, she was one of many workers trapped, and this is referenced again in a CNN article, but Parson Perez was one of the many workers trapped under the rubble of a candle factory in Mayfield, Kentucky, after it was struck by a tornado late Friday. It happened so fast, quote Parsons Perez, describing the onslaught. We all just rocked back and forth, and then boom, everything fell on us. Parsons was working in her shift at Mayfield Consumer Products Candle Factory when the tornado struck. She was one of more than 100 people working at the factory, which had been going 24/7 in part to meet Christmas candle demand. Um, the horror began when she felt wind, despite being deep in the building where she and other workers were taking cover in a storm shelter. The lights flickered and her ears began to pop. She remembers seconds later, the building was being torn apart around her, collapsing like a house of cards, she said. It was like one of the people took one of the pieces, she said, and the top fell down and just caved in on us like a Jenga thing, like one of the Jenga toys or whatever. Something hit her in the head, and when the chaos stopped, she found her legs pinned underneath a water fountain. And when rescuers arrived, she was told she was trapped under at least 5 feet of debris. Coworkers surrounded her. Some cried out for help. Others prayed. Parsons Perez cracked jokes to try to keep people calm. But as the minutes stretched on, and as she lost feeling in her toes, Parsons Perez also became concerned. At this point, she says she began broadcasting on Facebook Live. Bro, I don't know who's watching, she said, as her panicked coworkers are heard in the background. Y'all, please send us some help. We are trapped. The wall is stuck on me. Nobody can get to us. Y'all pray for us. Try and get somebody to help us. Skipping a little bit forward here. Once I got out of there, this is Parsons Perez. Once I got out of there, I couldn't do anything but thank God, she said. That's the only thing that saved me. It's unbelievable that anybody walked away from there. Which, again, we know people walked away, but not everyone, unfortunately. But can you imagine that, Terrence? Being on Facebook Live, of all places, begging for someone to come help you. And again, obviously, I didn't see that live happening, but I can imagine, like, obviously, I'm here in Indiana, so I wouldn't have been much help. But I'm like, oh my. Can you imagine that, Terrence? Can you imagine either yourself being the one having to make that Facebook Live call, or can you imagine being one of the people actually seeing it live happen and like, what is going on? Yeah.
I can't imagine watching it, and also can't imagine that feeling of helplessness um, to even post it. But I think it really showcases, well, one, you know, I'm I'm glad that um, that individual po- posted it, because who knows, maybe she saved somebody's life that night. I don't know.
Real quick, just to point this out, 'cause I know we talked about it a lot. So in the same article, CNN mentions that tornado in Mayfield was one of at least 50 that struck 8 states, including Arkansas, Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, Missouri, Mississippi, Ohio, and Tennessee. So yeah, that's a lot. I've never heard of anything like that. That is absolutely nuts to me. But and also the fact that it's in December. I can't think of tornadoes happening in December usually, but I guess when we have this crazy change in weather, that's going to happen. But yeah, this is nuts. That's
You
yeah.
mean that crazy change in weather known as global warming?
I wanted to do that twice, make sure everybody heard my sigh. Like, yeah, let's not go there. But yeah, man. Again, I know I said this twice already, but definitely condolences to anyone, the families of anyone that lost their lives, no matter what state it is, whether it be Illinois, Kentucky, or any of the other 6 states. But yeah, may all of you be able to move forward, never stop forgetting or grieving. Um, but yeah, my condolences to you. And yeah, if anybody's listening to this that went through it or survived it or has a story to tell about one of their family members or friends that lost their lives, definitely reach out to us. Love to hear a story, and if you just want to have somebody to talk to and listen, we'll do that too.
Here, here. All right. That concludes our segment on the tornado tragedies that hit um, a good chunk of our nation last week. Coming up next, we'll wrap up the show with our final thoughts.